a strike.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. CFL content for the fans, by the fans, and we got Week 19 preview. So we're getting really close to the end of the season here. And it looks like an interesting week of football. We got some rematches, some key and very important games, and some games of some teams that are very, very close in the standings. So this will be exciting. So let's get right in. But first, before we get into that, we got to talk about today's sponsor, which is BetStamp. Now, BetStamp is not a traditional sports betting website. It does not offer you one money line. It will actually offer you many money lines from a variety of sources and other betting websites. So that way you can make the most for every bet you make. So make sure when you download it from the App Store, or if you use the link in the description below to the website, you will use code CFL Central, so that way they know that you're coming from us and you're saving money. So that way you can make the most out of your bets and get the biggest possible payout instead of whatever just your app will offer you. So thanks again to BetStamp for sponsoring this video. Let's get back into it. So our first game of the week is going to be a rematch of last week, the Montreal Alouettes versus the Ottawa Redblacks. Montreal being second in the East and Ottawa being fourth in the East, not doing so hot. However, this is going to be an interesting one because Ottawa was able to win this past week, a little bit of a surpriser, but now we're back in Ottawa. So the question is Ottawa going to keep it rolling, or is Montreal going to be a little annoyed that they actually lost to the Redblacks on home turf of all things? And as much as I think Ottawa is going to put up a decent fight here, I can't see them beating the Alouettes 2 weeks in a row, especially with what the Alouettes have, and a guy like, Geno Lewis and the way that Trevor Harris has been able to play. I think that we're going to expect some good things here from Montreal, and I think Ottawa's will put up a bit of a fight. I think it'll be a closer game than some people may expect, but I think Montreal is going to finish this one out on top. And that'll bring us into our next one, though, which is going to be the Hamilton Tiger Cats versus the Calgary Stampeders. One of the most important games of this week. Not for Calgary, not at all. For Hamilton. This game is very important for Hamilton because right now, currently, so Saskatchewan doesn't play this week, but Saskatchewan is one game ahead of Hamilton and exactly 2 points ahead. If Hamilton wins this game, they tie the Rough Riders by record. And so at that point, I can't remember what the tiebreaker is there, but Hamilton needs to win this game to even get to a tiebreaker. So huge game against the Calgary Stampeders in Calgary. Hamilton's going to need to bring their A game. I'm sure they will, and I actually think the Ticats are going to win this one. I think Calgary is going to put up a vicious, vicious fight. Calgary is a very good team. But Hamilton has so much to play for. And, it was only a few weeks ago we saw Dane Evans with the performance of his lifetime over the Bombers in a very, very close game in the sense of, I guess not that close. It wasn't the closest game, but in a very, very uphill battle for Hamilton in a game where they were not expected to win it all, but they really just put it all together and drove forward. And now that they need this win more than anything, I think that Hamilton will not leave McMahon Stadium without kicking and screaming. And so I think Hamilton's going to win this game simply because they have so much to play for. Guys like Tim White and Stephen Dunbar Jr., Wes Hills, and Dane Evans have had some pretty interesting seasons, especially Dane Evans with having a very lackluster start, and then all of a sudden the fire under the ass, and the guy is throwing out of his mind and playing the way he can. I think CFL put him as like the 4th or 5th best receiver in the CFL. CFL, come on, just one game, and he had some decent other games, but that's not it. Like, that's not enough to put him that high. However, if he's able to put up the performance that he needs to put on, maybe sometime, we'll see. But that'll bring us into our next game with probably the most useless game of the week, which is going to be Toronto versus Edmonton. Well, the most useless because Toronto's probably going to win this. One of that being Toronto being much, much better than the Edmonton Elks, and the other being that this is an Elks home game. I'm going to keep bringing it up. Win a damn home game and I'll stop. Or maybe I won't stop, But I'll tell you how fantastic that victory is for weeks to come. Win a game. Taylor Cornelius has had a pretty strong season for the most part. He's done pretty well. McLeod Bethel-Thompson, not so much. However, it's been getting a lot better recently with a very good performance this past week. So there's hope for him yet. And this is a bit of a strange game because it's a game where Toronto is locked up first in the East. There's no question they're going to have the Eastern Final in Toronto. That's what's going to happen. Edmonton there's no way they're in a playoff spot. You know, the only team in the West that doesn't have a guaranteed shot but still has a shot is Saskatchewan. But that hill, that's going downhill. I'm not so sure about if that's going to happen anymore as I was at the start of the season, based on the fact that they had such a good start and it really went downhill. But Edmonton really hasn't had much of anything this entire season. 4-12, but Cornelius has played well and he's really developed, so there is hope for Elks fans in the future. This is not a hopeless team, but they really just have to focus on being able to build around him for these coming seasons, but I'm sure they'll be able to put some stuff together. But I don't see him beating Toronto. I think Toronto wins, and I think the Edmonton losing streak at home continues. Which brings us to our last game of the week, Winnipeg versus BC. Now, here's the thing. So, we have to keep in mind, Winnipeg has pulled a few of their starters out for this game. Most notably, Zach Collaros is replaced with Drew Brown. Drew Brown is in, baby. And if you guys watch any of my Bomber game reactions over on the No Hockey Podcast, make sure you check it out if you haven't. You know I am very high on my boy Drew Brown. Comes in at the very first game of the season. We don't know who this guy is. We don't know what he's got. But what has he got? Holy crap. 5 straight receptions. Bombers in clutch in their home opener against Ottawa pull out the victory when I thought they might actually lose that. The Drew Brown train is running, baby, and I am all on it. Now, let's keep in mind that Drew Brown is still a third-string quarterback, or a second-string. You know, Prukop and Drew Brown kind of rotate through that spot. But the biggest difference with Drew Brown is he's able to throw the ball. He can actually throw the ball quite well. The difference is that he does not deal with pressure even close to as good as Zach Collaros. Zach Collaros, when he deals with pressure, is when he is at his best. When he scrambles and he's able to make that throw and not get caught or not have a guy grab the ankle, somehow it's able to be the best throw you'll ever see from him. Drew Brown, on the other hand, when the pocket collapses, so does he. So, I don't know how this is going to go for the Bombers. It's nice that they're going to be putting in Liam Dobson, their draft pick from a few years ago, on the offensive line. Colin Kowski, I think, is moving out to guard, from what I heard for that game. But it'll be interesting on the Bomber side of things. On the Lions side of things, Vernon Adams Jr. is still in. Nathan O'Rourke is practicing. So, BC Lions fans, hope that you see Nathan O'Rourke come playoffs. It's possible. He's able to practice now, at least, but not quite ready to put him in a game scenario yet, and not really necessary. I think it's good that they keep rolling with Vernon Adams. But it's going to be a little interesting here as both Lucky Whitehead and Brian Burnham are out. A big hit to the BC offense. So the question is, how much is a guy like Dominic Rhymes going to be able to carry that offense? How much is a guy like Jordan Williams going to be really shut down defense against the Drew Brown offense of the Winnipeg Blue Bombers? So this is going to be a very, very close game. I think a lot of people, because they're hearing Drew Brown, are immediately going over the Lions, but it's also one of those things where Lucky Whitehead and Brian Burnham are out on their side of things. So it's such a tough game to decide. I'm going to put my money on the Bombers. And the reason I'm saying that is because I actually did. With the bet stamp thing, which you guys should absolutely be a part of. Through bet stamp, I did actually place a bet on the Bombers. I made sure that I got the most for my money, so make sure you guys do that too. It's one of those things where Bombers rarely have a really good money line. They have a really good money line this game, and when I got real money, when I got money on the line, I can't ever bet against the Bombers, just because then I have, like, on one hand, I'd like to make $40, but on the other hand, not at the expense of my Bombers losing. So I'm going to go with the Bombers, even though it would make a lot of sense for the Lions to win this game. So if the Lions win, I'm not surprised. But yeah, so this will be an interesting week of football. Let me know what you guys think of this week and what we're going to see in the comment section down below. Make sure you guys take care. Use BetStamp like I've been saying, and I'll see you guys next time.